Thank you, bro. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me on. And sorry it took so long once again.
No issues, no issues. I think under the circumstances we live in, I'm very grateful for this. Bro, I want to start off with a very, very serious question, and it's deeply personal. I was looking through a few of your videos and a few of your interviews, where you were like you had problems, or you rather felt uncomfortable admitting that you're now a married man.
Sorry, I'm uncomfortable.
Admitting that you're now a married man. So, if anything, has this quarantine gotten you to a point where you're like, yes, I'm now a married man. Yeah, this is my wife, man.
Okay, no, uncomfortable admitting that I'm a married man. Not like that. I'm not used to calling someone my. Okay, so that is one thing, because when I'm introducing someone something, because me and my partner, we've been going out since like for around 7 years.
Right.
So she's kind of like my best friend. So adukaprom on this sudden wedding kaprom, that shift takes a little bit of time to get used to saying wife to people. And the thing is, I don't meet many people outside like a very, a small social circle. I'm with the same friends for the past 15, 20 years or something like that. Sure. All same school person. So we've not introduced someone to, the outside this thing. So on the other wives சொல்றது வந்து time.
Sure. Speaking of quarantine, are you guys coming up with masks?
Yeah, we are, in the sense we were supposed to release it 2 weeks back. But as things would always have it, there was an issue with the vendors.
Right.
With the vendors in the sense, the kind of products, the product quality and the fit and everything, that wasn't perfect. So we had to send it back, and then now it's coming back again. As a matter of fact, we might be introducing it like tomorrow. We might be launching it tomorrow on the site.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not just, there are like 2-3 different types of masks.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Bro, before I get into the product itself and the company itself, I want to sort of peel back the curtain a little bit before Fully Filmy and your life then. Now, I heard in an interview of you talking about how we as Indians, and especially South Indians, we are brought up in a sense of just put your head down, receive instructions, receive what people say, and just move on. Now, you lived that life before you started the company. And after you started the company, the attention is now on you, and the tables have turned, and the guidance and the direction should come from you. Is that an intimidating position to be in your mid-20s? And how have you evolved as a leader from, let's say, when you started the company to now?
Okay. To be honest, I don't think I'm the greatest leader, in the sense, because usually, like how it used to be, right? Like when you're leader of a team or like a owner of a company or something, that used to happen much earlier in age, like in your life. Like example, if we think about our relatives, our older relatives, our fathers or uncles, all of those people, or aunts or anyone. So they reach like a managerial position much later in their life, even if it comes to something like in a bank, if you're having like a senior position, right?
Yeah.
So the way we started was that even we were learning everything. It's not just leadership. We were learning everything on the job. Like if there was like, if we had to figure out how to pack an order and send it to someone, we would make the mistake first and then learn it. Okay, so mistakes and all will happen first only. We'll fuck up in every different direction, every different field, and then only we'll get to, okay, I think it's the same with leadership. And if it's an intimidating position,
in your mid-20s,
yeah, definitely.
Right.
Like for me, definitely, in the sense, but I see it as a positive. See, there are like 3 founders of the company.
Right.
So I take care of mostly of the creative part. My partner Anand, he takes care of the managerial, financial, business decisions, all of those things. And Karthikeyan, who we started the company with, he takes care of a little bit of operations and a little bit of handling, managing like design team. Like he gives orders and they have to execute it. So all of us are different in our own ways. So whatever I don't have, that my partner makes up for. Whatever he doesn't have, I make up for. So even if it is intimidating, I know that I have my partners who got my back. So that is fine. And have I evolved? I think more than the last 5 years. This lockdown period, I think this is my personal opinion, that I think I've evolved better as a leader in terms of being more empathetic.
I relate.
Because before that, we'll always be looking at just sales targets, right? Like this day, we have like a monthly target. And then, of course, we have a weekly and then daily target. So daily, we have to hit these numbers. And when you're concentrating on just those numbers, you kind of pay less attention to the people. Behind those numbers. So during this time, when especially the starting first 1.5 months, our sales it wasn't zero like a lot of other companies, like Touchwood, thankful for that. It wasn't zero, it was still like at a base level. People were still ready to pay money even though they know that the order won't come. That is because of the brand value that we built. But during this time, we were mainly concentrating on creating content, especially through Instagram and everything, to keep the audience entertained in terms of thing of observation. So considering all of those things, I think I've started to pay a little more attention to people's lives, like by being in their position. And I think one thing that any leader needs is empathy. Of course, you also need to have authority and then getting tasks done on time and all that. But empathy is something that I think I'm slowly getting better at. The other stuff I have to definitely work on myself in terms of authority. So it's still like an ongoing process. I don't think I'll ever hit like 100%. But yeah, every day is another learning.
I read from an entrepreneur from Silicon Valley where he said recognizing what we are good at, the way to recognize what we are good at is to look back at what we've done in our lives and our collective actions lead us to what we are actually good at. An interesting point you mentioned is your abilities complement your partner's abilities. So how did you guys figure out how did you figure out what, for example, you lead the creative side, your partners lead the administrative side. So were there any indicators that suggested that this person should take care of this and this person should take care of that?
Okay, no, I think that is very instinctive because in terms of like my Anand, who's my partner, I know him since 2004. Okay, so we've been best friends for like 16 years now, and that's how we started the company together because both of us wanted to like do a business and all that, and then we started the company together. So I know what kind of person Anand is. Example, he's a lot into sports.
Right.
So he's extremely competitive when it comes to sports, and that when you're really good at sports and when you've been the captain of like your sports school teams and everything, that automatically reflects in other parts of your life.
Sure.
Okay. So obviously he had like a more authoritative role, more like of the operational kind of a mind. And I used to be working on, I'll be the introvert guy, who's the only guy who likes movies in the group. Other people also love movies, of course, but all of the other boys in the group, all of them love sports a lot more. And I was never into sports. So I'll be like doing my own thing at home, like I'll be drawing at home, designing, doing all of that. During college also, photography, writing, all. So obviously I took up a creative role. It's just what I do. And he took up the managerial role because it suits his nature completely. So I think it just happened. There was no indicator of anything. It's a very natural, organic process.
One thing you mentioned in your previous answer is even though this is a tough period, you guys managed because of the brand value and because of the audience, how they perceive you. You guys were making considerable amount of sales.
Sorry, last part.
You guys were making some amount of sale because of the brand value. I talked to a few of my friends and I asked them if I tell you the company Fully Filmy, what comes to your mind? And the answers I got was cool, chill vibe. So all the answers were in sort of that direction. So what how did you guys go about in creating this brand value of we're just friendly guys in the neighborhood and we create these cool products? So this image, how did you guys create?
Okay. See, in terms of the image, there are few people who also claim that Fully Filmy doesn't cater to everyone. They cater to only one section of the audience. But that is some criticism that we always have to go through. There will be one section of the audience who will always be telling you that they're doing this wrong or they're doing this good and all that. So that is fine. Okay. So, and as long as people are talking about you, that's a good. Whether the reaction is positive or negative. How did we come about building the brand is that I consider myself as that audience in the sense. And for example, everything we've done, right? We've done through creating content about people, about things that people like. Like from minimal Bollywood posters when it started. Movies is something everyone loves. Sure. What we do is we take what people like and then we add like an extra spin to it. It like a light creative twist to it so that it becomes something else. So at the core of it, it is all to do with what each of them like. It doesn't matter if you like Mani Ratnam or Vadivelu or like Senthil, Gaundamani, Big Boss, whatever. So there are different kinds of audience categories that are there, like based on their interest and everything. So we take one thing at a time and then we create like we put like a creative twist to it and it reaches them in like a new manner. And as much as possible, we like to be unbiased. As long as that person doesn't have any, how do you say it? There are few people in the industry that we will, not just in the industry, generally in any field that we won't support. Like in the sense, if they have, how do I put this in a very subtle way? 2 years ago, the Me Too movement started, right? So anyone who has been attached to that, as much as possible, not just the Me Too movement, anyone who has crossed the line in terms of few things, those people are someone who we will never support. Other than that, everyone is an artist, everyone is a creator, and we make things about them, and that reaches the audience in their own ways. So I think it's like an organic process. If you consider yourself as part of the audience and not as just a creator, then I think your brand will definitely reach places. It might take a little bit of time, but it'll reach places.
I want to move to the product itself, and I am very fascinated about the process it takes to create a product of what Fully Filmy does. Because when I look at a T-shirt, let's say for example, the T-shirt's witty, it's funny, it's creative, it's bright, the graphic designing is top notch, and at the same time, if it's dedicated to someone, there's also a slight element of tribute to who the person you're dedicating it to. And all of this you have to achieve in this limited space that is available. So from ideating a product to its finished end, what happens during this creative process? How involved do you get, and what is basically the process of creating from idea to a finished product?
Same process as like I said before. I'll give an example of like how we come up with like a creative twist. If you take minimal Bollywood posters, which was there before Fully Filmy, which started as a Facebook page. So what we normally do is we take one thing that people like or that we like as part of the audience, and we take something else that they either like or something that's trending during that point of time. For example, there was a time in November 2014 or something like that. December 12th was supposed to be Rajinikanth's birthday. And obviously, we being huge Talavar fans from like since forever, we wanted to make like a campaign, but not like, okay, Rajini poster and the Padavacha Rajapandla, not like that. We wanted to do something a little extra special. So we took Rajinikanth, but then we wanted to fuse it with something that is completely opposite. It has no relation to him. So I think the Minions, I think Despicable Me was trending during that time.
Yeah.
So we took the Minions concept and we fused it into one thing. So it became Superstar Minions. And obviously when you give something that you're so familiar with in a completely new light, it takes it to some other level. That's why that campaign also became very successful. That is what we try to bring in everything that we create. Of course, there are few things which will have to be more direct. But if you see any particular, even like a quote, if you see on the Big Boss timeline, the first Big Boss when it came out, Ovia said, "Neenga shut up pannunga."
Shut up pannunga.
Adliye, if you look at the typography, you might not be able to notice it instantly, but there will be some kind of elements like related to banana, all of those things. It will be there in this thing. So how I do get involved is for the first 3.5 years, all the ideas used to come from my side. At least 60 to 80% of the ideas will come from my side. And then based on that particular brief, the designers will come up with their interpretation. After that, over the last 1.5 to 2 years, because all of my designers, in the sense, at least 2-3 of my designers have been there since the very beginning. One guy has been like since we ever started expanding as a team. One of them has been around for 4 years. So now the designers come up with their own briefs, and then now I'm mostly at the final stage of approval. Of course, there are a lot of ideas that come from my side also when it requires like a specific campaign or something. But right now, I'm mostly concentrating on how to make the business a little bigger. What are the new avenues that we can concentrate to generate more revenue? Okay, so me and Anand are concentrating mainly upon that. And all the creative design stuff comes from the design team itself. So it's evolved a bit, but I'm always involved at least at the end point.
Right. You mentioned how fusing two unrelated things together. I remember one of my first exposure to the physical store in Phoenix Small City, where Vadivellu was in a Captain America costume, and I was like, "What is this?" I went in and I explored all the products. It was a great memory.
That was Rajinikanth in the Captain.
Yeah. Sorry. It was Rajinikanth. Yeah. It was
Captain also makes sense. So on the level,
you mentioned that you're trying to expand to other avenues, and the first thing that crops up in my mind is, of course, the CSK deal, which as a sports fan was great news for me. How did you get that done? And similar to how you receiving a call from Manirathan sir's office, from Rajinikanth sir's office, was this a similar type of deal, or did you guys sort this thing? Did you guys go after them, or did they come to you, or how did this whole thing happen?
Okay, in terms of CSK, we've been not trying to work with them. Like, example, I think the first IPL started in 2008, right?
Yeah. 2007, I think.
Okay, one of those years.
Yeah.
So when we went for the first IPL match, it was a day match, and clearly remember the atmosphere. Like, I've been to cricket matches. In the sense, I've been to these India, West Indies, all of those kind of matches in Chennai itself at Chepa. But this was it was completely different. Like, the entire vibe was different because you're suddenly seeing like a whole stadium of just yellow. You're usually just used to blue. And the way it was packaged, like there were cheerleaders, there was music, there was entertainment, all of that, it became like some kind of a different event. So I always found right from the beginning, right from the uniform itself, first, when I saw the uniform, I was like, why is it yellow? It's like so weird for the sport.
It's so flashy.
Yeah, but when they came onto the field for the first time, and then I think Hayden was hitting like continuous sixes with his mongoose bat and all that.
Yeah.
On the time, you can see that CSK is completely different from any other team, with lots of factors. Of course, Dhoni factor is there, but as a brand, it stands out like. And I think they are the second or third most popular IPL brand purely in terms of numbers. But I think there's no other brand that gets as much love. So when we were seeing that, when we were experiencing that, we thought that, okay, at some point we have to work with these people, or at least meet these people at some point, do something together. So we've been trying. Sorry.
So this was decided like a decade ago, and
it wasn't decided. It was
I mean, it was planned, or at least an intention. Yeah, right. Got it.
Example, if you see a car like that you really like on the road, Mercedes, yeah. So it was something like that. We have to work with them. It was a very pure. That time there was no Fully Filmy also. The idea was just lighter there, but there was no Fully Filmy at that time. So over the past 2-3 years, since we started getting a little more in terms of sales and numbers and all started improving, we've been trying to contact CSK for a long time. But something or the other didn't work out. Or I think we should have got the license last time, but we were too late to go and pitch, basically get this thing in order. So it went to Soulstore at that point of time.
Yeah.
The window for us to create like a pitch and then get it approved was very late. And also, I think CSK also last year they were getting, they took the merchandise decision, like the route to go for merchandise and all very late only. But in this year, in the last financial year, they realized the potential of what it could be, and they started creating many more, they were prepared to give many more different kinds of licenses now. So we got to know about that, and then we went and met CSK. Initially, they were a little skeptical about this thing, that thing, and then we told them about our stores and how we position things and what all we've done with Dear CSK and all of this. Do you know about Dear CSK?
Yeah. Of course.
So they were thinking, last year we could have given it to you easily. We came last year. So they were like, okay, very impressed. So they were telling us about all the different kinds of licenses that are available. The talk went on for like a couple of months with their agency. And then after that, it just got finalized. It's very simple. Now it's like a proper business. That time, you had to have pure contacts. If you don't have contacts, there's nothing. Now they're actually seeking out partners to come and pitch their proposals and everything.
Nice.
So yeah, it was a pretty smooth process. They looked at our numbers, they looked at our stores, all the credibility that we built. And I think this time we were at the right place at the right time with getting the deal. But then this year itself is like the wrong year.
No.
So as soon as we got the CSK thing, as soon as we started the merchandise, it went for a toss.
But I think they're somehow, at least in November, December, when it's the off season, I think they'll have a mini IPL or something like that, because they can't afford to lose. BCCI can't afford to lose such a big,
there'll be so many companies who would have paid sponsorships and all of
exactly
deals, right? So many deals would have got those satellite deals, sponsorship deals, all of those things.
So I think there's at least a mini IPL happening later in the year. Yeah. You mentioned Dear CSK. Did you hear back from any of the players who saw the clips and did you hear back from players?
I think that time CSK's manager. I think CSK's manager and I think Ashwin also spoke about it at that point of time. And I heard that Dhoni has seen it. He didn't share it and everything, but Dhoni has seen it and he liked it and all that. That's what I heard from the management side.
Right. Bro, I also want to talk to you a bit about content creation and videos and editing and stuff like that. You're not only a good presenter but on screen, but you're also a fantastic editor, as people have been raving in the comment section of your videos. What's fascinating to me is that knowing to edit adds an extra layer of professionalism, and it elevates what one tries to put out. Now you worked on the Fully Filmy videos as a collective, I'm assuming, as groups. And now with your own channel, you started ideating the videos, you're shooting it, you're editing it, and you're also distributing it, all of it on your own. How has your perception of content creation changed since you went solo? And how different would you approach Fully Filmy's video going forward, given the experience you have as a solo creator now?
Since going solo, how do I articulate this as well as possible? What have I realized is that over the last year, that there is one thing I noticed in terms of this is not exactly connected to what I do, but the thing is, over the last 1 year, I've seen the rise of TikTok.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like I've seen how starting everyone used to find it like really cringy, and because only those videos used to get shared. And even to be honest, even I found cringy in the beginning, but it was really entertaining. But after a point in time, I've started checking out the platform and what different challenges that they have, and according to that, what all different people create. And you have to see who all are there on the platform right now. Example, there are some people who I really look up to. Example, for Gary Vee, he vouches for TikTok like pretty much all the time. TikTok, LinkedIn, he talks about that all the time. So since I started going through TikTok, I'm still trying to figure out how I can create TikTok. So that will be a different thing. What I learned from that is, one thing is for someone who's looking at another piece of content, to not judge anything immediately. They are doing it for a reason. It is working out for a reason, and you have to try to understand why it is working. Okay. Second thing is how simple the packaging and it's not exactly simple.
It's minimal.
It's
minimal.
Not minimal also. In terms of the length, it's very minimal.
Right. Yeah.
How they use like a very small attention span to say so much. One thing is solely to poema, where you say a story within like a short span of time. So I think that has helped in a little bit, to an extent, in whatever I do. Like in terms of editing and all that, I'm not like an editor or anything. But I always think that I have the final image in my mind. In the sense, I'll give you like an example I learned from college. I started to work on my photographs. Like I used to take pictures at that point of time. I had like the cheapest SLR, and I started taking pictures, and slowly I thought, okay, I don't think my pictures are perfect, because how I create something is, I already have something in my mind from something I've already seen. Okay, I would have spoken about this in Kesh's podcast also, that I'll give an example of Pinterest. Like if you go to Pinterest, you see so many different things, and as you interact with it, it starts recommending more things according to the things you like every other social media platform, according to your likes and interests. So if you're looking at references for like a poster or like some typography or something, you don't have to copy it and put it. But looking at those things and adding it to your different folders and everything, it kind of stays in your mind long after.
Yes.
It starts loading into your, how do you say, like a random access memory, like a RAM in your head, that when you are creating something and when you need like a reference, you can pull out from that, subconsciously it gets pulled up. So I think in terms of Photoshop, I still don't know a lot of the tools. Even though I'm the owner of a company that deals so much with Photoshop, Illustrator and all that, I'll be honest that I don't know all of the tools. But I know what is the final thing that I need. In terms, like I know my design sensibility. Like I know what it should be. Yes. And how it is going to be like that is up to the designers to figure it out. And that we have people to teach them also how to do it. So this is the same thing with editing. Like I pretty much learned like the tools of like Premiere Pro pretty much in a day. Like I had my video editor from Fully Filmy, and I asked him, how do you do this? How do you do this? How do you do this? Like just few shortcuts and everything. And because I already kind of know the story I want to say, it comes naturally. All of the things that I put around and how I play around with the things, I think all of that stuff comes naturally. And I think 20-30% of the video or anything that I do is complete experimentation. So how being solo has helped me is to not be judgmental about anything at all. That anything can be an inspiration. It doesn't matter if it's like a Mani Ratnam film or a Hitchcock film or if it's a TikTok video. I'm like equally, like inspiration can equally come from
anywhere.
And second thing is in terms of like editing and all, my style has become a lot more raw, and I think I'll be implementing that also into Fully Filmy.
A lot more raw?
One more thing that sorry?
A lot more raw?
Yeah, I think my style is, I won't say it's polished. Like in terms of my editing and all that, it's very abrupt. It goes somewhere and then it comes back and all that. So that gives a sense of like a dynamic style. Kind of. It keeps some kind of unpredictability. And I think in terms of editing videos, unpredictability is a very, very important thing that I keep in mind. So, and even in terms of the ideas or what you want to do, like by working on my own videos, I've just started feeling that I think we think too much about before creating something. Okay? Even in terms of the Fully Filmy YouTube channel, they're like for so long we were thinking that we put it up on a pedestal, thinking, you know, this doesn't deserve to be on YouTube. All that shit doesn't work. If people like it, they like it, it will work. That's all.
Right.
And we wasted, I won't say wasted. Everything is a learning only. We spent most of the last 1 year thinking too much about what to put onto YouTube, and now I think slowly that will start changing. Now only we're kind of restructuring what kind of YouTube content to create. And the thing is, this journey has also helped me in realizing that YouTube is not the only thing. I'm looking at everything right now. YouTube is one thing, Instagram is one thing, TikTok is a big challenge for me, which I really want to see how I can play with that. Same thing will translate to Fully Filmy also.
Right.
So lot of things have gone into learning. So,
yeah. For the short amount of time that I've been doing this, it's been about 2-3 months. As soon as I have a video ready, I look at it and I'm like, okay, this is decent, and let's just post it. And 2-3 days after posting it, I look back at it and I'm like, this is the most embarrassing thing that I've ever done in my life. So, what is this secret is not a good word to use, but I'll go with it for a lack of a better term. What is the secret of creating content that is just not good at the time of release, but let's say 10 years down the line, if the world still exists, 10 years down the line, a kid discovers it and it's still relevant and it's still good. So time lasting, what is the secret of not being contextual and catering to all time zones?
No, I think in my opinion, I don't think there's any secret, and I go through this exact same thing as you. After I release the video, if I look at it again after 2 days, I feel like vomiting. I don't want to look at my face. I don't want to hear my voice. That's why all my friends also, okay, not all my friends, most of my friends watch my videos and everything. They watch it silently. And if they switch that on in front of me by mistake, it's so cringy. I can't tolerate it.
Yes.
And they're very honest with their criticism. All of that stuff is fine, but they still support whatever I'm doing. But I personally, after releasing, I can't handle it. For example, for the last video, which I just put out yesterday, which is about marks and how much does marks impact your life and everything. I didn't like it while I was making it itself. Like, in the sense, I felt like I was repeating myself over and over and over again.
Yes.
How many times the same shit? Do you agree?
Totally relate.
Yeah. No, you are okay. So I felt like I'm saying the same thing again. I've already spoken about this in another video. Why am I even doing this? And then I showed it to my partner, and she said that it's okay. It might sound like your story because you've said it so many times. It might sound very odd to you, but it might add value to someone who's going through that phase which you're talking about, like example 12th or college or whatever, like starting off with just before starting your career and stuff. So finish it, complete it. Don't be too hard on yourself. Even if it's bad, just put it out. So there's no secret. You never know what is good or bad. Whatever you think is going to be really good, this is going to work, like this is going to be viral as fuck, it never works.
It never works.
It almost never works. Sometimes, maybe by mistake, it works, I think. But you have to stop. One thing is stop taking yourself so seriously. Be serious about the work you put in. Don't be serious about the output and everything. Just think about, is it adding any value? Is it entertaining someone? Okay, and then can it lead to something like, can you monetize it or can you gain anything else out of it? That's it. Don't think too much about whether people like it or not. You have to take risks in it, and there's no secret to timelessness.
I think the video was fine, but I think the way the reason why you felt that is because of the editing, because you have to listen to yourself over and over and over say the same things, because editing is subtle, and even the smallest subtleties have to be removed. So I think even I felt that, where I edit a video and I'm like, you're just repeating yourself again and again and again. But I think because of listening to yourself say the same things again and again during the process of editing, it maybe springs up our mind. So yeah.
No, I think it's also like, especially in terms of this video, I don't think I've taken this long to ever record a video. I think I was in some other mind space. I was thinking about something else, and it took me around, the total footage time was around 1.5 hours. But the final video is around just 10 minutes. Wow. So I had to cut up that much because I was boring myself with my own stories and stuff. So I got damn bored. And sometimes I enjoy watching what I've created before releasing it. Like there are a lot of few examples. The Philippines vlog that I put out, that I was watching. There was a couple of other instances and all that, which I found that was entertaining. So this one, I don't know, it felt damn weird, but I'm just glad I put it out. It's okay. I've received a lot of like positive feedback from it, DMs and everything. So I think as long as it works for them, it can be some for you, some for them. So I think that's fine.
I think it was one of my favorite videos of yours, but it still didn't pass or surpass your purpose of existence video, which I will get to now. I go back to it whenever I lack a motivation to create or something of that sort. But since your association to cinema and since your love for cinema, if you were to sum up your purpose of existence, your principles and your values to one character from a movie that you've seen, which character would that be? Essentially, a character which you went, this is me, and if I were to act in a movie, I would want to act this character.
இது கொஞ்சம் லைட்டா ஓவரா தான் இருக்கும் பட் a mixture. Okay, it's like a very weird mixture. I was just thinking about this yesterday. Like I'll be spending time like in the next couple of weeks to study a little bit more about philosophy. I want to learn more philosophical concepts. Right now I just know two things. One is stoicism and second thing is nihilism. And then there's a third thing which I don't know if it exists or not, but I put a term to it. It's called optimistic nihilism, which I have spoken about in
the video.
So two characters that I want to say is the first is Baasha, like Manikam, actually. Romba overa dhaan irukum, but listen to what I mean. Okay. So I think if you want to explain stoicism to someone, what is stoicism is that in the face of adversity, during any tough situations, you just
pain.
Just take it and then it will pass after some time.
Yes.
I just added. I have to study a little bit more about it. But this is my understanding. If you look at Baasha when he's like an auto driver, you know that there is something else with this guy. Okay. Like example, when they destroy his auto.
Yes.
They completely destroy his auto. And then he goes under the hood of the auto rickshaw and then he's cleaning stuff and all that and he's looking up. Then there's his mother at the balcony. And then she looks at him and she's like that. And then he's also like, okay, just leave it. Okay. So he's just smiling it off. He knows what he is. Anytime he can destroy the world. But he has to endure. Same thing, I think, a little later in the movie.
When he gets beaten up.
The role and everything. And he just laughs. But I don't think there's such a beautiful moment in any Rajini movie. So in terms of enduring pain, knowing that, a few minutes later, it will pass. Maybe not few minutes later, few days later, months later, or whatever. You know who you are. Let the world throw whatever shit at you. You know who you are. Just stick to that. And some point you can show it to them who you really are. So that is one thing. Second thing is, I think, Gaaji from Super Deluxe. In terms of how he goes about his life. Not about his porn fixation. That's a but like, this is life. Why to judge someone? How much time are you going to spend time in hating someone or judging someone? Life is too short for that. It's just enjoy it. Like it's like life is like kind of like a porn movie. The path enjoy kind of like that. So it's I think a mixture of these two.
Cool. Last couple of questions. In the last video, you shared that you started writing a screenplay, which is great news for someone who's been following your work. If you were to take a movie and you had to be like, I would have done not a better job, but I would have liked to add my spin to this story from a particular movie. What movie would that be?
I think this is not like, I think there'll be a lot of movies. I don't want to change anything or something. I don't want to say that I could have done this better and all that. But when it comes to Maikamena especially, I really, really love that movie. Okay? But the thing is, I wish I could see a little more about why Dhanush became that character. Like, why was his character like, I guess his name is Karthik in the movie. So why was Karthik like that? Like, what made him become such a character? Even with his friends and all that, he'll be kind of an eccentric character, which just keeps on going more and more and more. So I would have wanted to discover a little bit more about his childhood and everything. Like example, when you watch Premam, I think it's one of the most perfect. At the same time, it's one of the most imperfect movies. Alphonse Putin also would have said the same thing, that it has so many mistakes that I feel weird about it, but I'm glad that it was such an imperfect movie because it is completely mine. And when you look at that, you know why these people are like that, because you watch their entire life on screen, and then you know their relationship with each other and all of those things. So obviously, every movie can't spend so much time in character establishment about showing that person's childhood and all of those things. That's not. But because Michael Manna's Karthik was such an eccentric character, I would have wanted to know a little bit about what was his childhood like. What experience did he go through? Did he get abused by someone? I don't know. So
right. Final question. I have a lot of friends who are supremely talented, and they draw, they speak really well, they're really articulate. I envy a lot of people like that. But at the same time, they turn out to be what society calls them introverts. And I've tried to, I've tried to push them to create content, or at least write content if they're shy to be in front of camera. But what they feel is, oh, I'm an introvert, I don't speak that much, I am afraid of judgment or something like that. So if you were to offer your comments or your perspective to an introvert who has the potential of creating content, but is just not able to because of insecurity and just fear of judgment, what would it be?
Firstly, it depends on one thing. It might sound very harsh or blunt, but like you said, I think life is all about choices only. If you choose to do this, it'll lead to something else. If you choose not to do this, it won't lead to anything. So you can make up excuses that you're introvert, all of that, but how I would say that use your introversion to your advantage. Example, if you're an introvert, speak about being an introvert. That is what I do. I speak a lot about how all of the fuck ups that I've done, all of the mistakes that I've done. And I think if you take any movie, right, your favorite characters are going to be the ones that are extremely flawed. That is, in the beginning, if you see a character who's a nice guy, who's likable, all of that stuff, but if he has some flaw, it makes you root for that person much more. So if your friend or someone is wanting to create content, they have the potential to create content. One thing is they have to do it, speak about all of their, all of their flaws, all of that. You can talk about it to someone. If they are not ready to put it out to the public immediately, if you're a good enough friend, I think you should ask them to first make it. And then you should tell them that I will help you in making this. And you show it to me. Okay. Don't show it to anyone. You show it to only me. Then you will see how what all you can add. Because you've been doing this for quite some time. You have a little bit of experience. And you have to let that person trust you and then be a good friend and get him to actually do stuff, not necessarily put it out immediately into the world, but make him or her show it to you and see what you can do. Then first, like once you made it, okay, like that. Okay, so, and I think a lot depends upon you also rather than just them taking the decision.
Yeah.
So this question came, not exactly this question, but there was a similar comment on my latest video. A lot of people said that how can I speak English more fluently?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you get better at anything? Like example, fitness. Like if you look at me, no one will say that I go to the gym or I'm fit by any standards or anything like that. Okay. There's no chance. I'm extremely unfit, extremely unhealthy and all that. And obviously the first day I go to the gym or first day I do some push-up, I'm not going to get six-pack abs, obviously. I'm going to do one push-up first. That itself is going to hurt a lot. And the next day I'm going to try to do it again and then 2 more times. 1 week later, you can do 5 push-ups every day. Like at least. Okay. I don't want to give anyone anxiety or something that 5 is whatever. Because 5, 10, 15, 20, 1, even if it's 1, half, whatever your number is, you start somewhere. Next week, if you're 10% better, that says a lot. Okay, your body gets accustomed to it. So I told the person that anything comes with just, how much ever cliched it sounds, anything comes with practice. If you want to speak English more fluently, that person said, I'm good at grammatical English, like good at typing and writing English. But when it comes to speaking, it's not. So the perfect way to do it is either make videos of yourself or record yourself like, like do a voice recording, and don't necessarily put it out in the world. Show it to your friend who knows English a lot, who's like not knows English a lot, who's very fluent with English. That person will tell you a few pointers, and then also you have to expose yourself to a lot of TED talks and all of those things. You have to keep watching all of those things and trying to replicate. Same thing what we have done with all of our products and design and everything. Everything that you see, there's no such thing as originality. Everything is taken from a lot of different places and infused into one, and then it becomes something else. Same thing with whether it's English or whether it's content creation or anything. You have to take that first step, and it doesn't matter how many different places you take it from. You just have to do it consistently over and over again. 100% next week you'll be a little better at it, and then a month later you'll be much better. That's the only thing that I can say. So a lot of responsibility lies on you rather than just them. No, I just want to give. I think there is an example. Okay. Oh shit! Yeah. Have you watched Good Will Hunting?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so Good Will Hunting is about this guy who's had Matt Damon. He's had a very, very troubled childhood, and that has manifested in him becoming very guarded with anyone. He's an extremely violent person. Otherwise, he's very guarded. He's not open to speaking too much with other people. Like they cross one barrier, he just backs off or he reacts violently. But there is one very, very gifted trait that he has, that he's extremely good at mathematics. In the sense, like mathematics or anything to do with analytical stuff and everything. He can solve the most complex problems in the world, which most professors also can't. Like he'll be working as a janitor in either Harvard or MIT or something like that, and there'll be a problem written on a board outside the classroom, and he'll just be looking at that, and he'll just start taking a chalk and then he'll just start doing it. And people recognize his talent, and then they give him like a chance to get better at it, in the sense maybe go to a job and everything. And he goes, attends interviews, but then he purposely fucks it up so that he doesn't have to go work for someone else, or and all of his other friends, they are not as gifted as him. Of course, they are very regular people. They are like just like any other janitor, anyone who works at a construction site. His best friend, both of them go to a construction site, and they're always working there, drinking beer and working there. At the end of the movie, there is one thing that his friend, who is Ben Affleck, he says that, see, everyone around you is trying to make you do something except yourself. Okay. Like there is something within you that is stopping. I'm sure you solve that. But every morning I come to pick you up so that we can go waste some time somewhere, get drunk somewhere and everything. Not morning, I think every evening or something. Every day I come to pick you up saying, let's go for a drive. And while I love hanging out with you, as much as I love hanging out with you, sometimes I just wish that you're not at home. Sometimes I just wish that you're at a much better place, because you have this gift that none of us have, and if you're wasting that, it means that you don't respect us. Like you have to succeed in order for all of us to succeed. We want to see you succeed. So except him, everyone else works towards making him succeed. So sometimes there are two types of creators. One creator, all of the creativity, everything comes from within, and he experiments a lot, and other people also contribute a little bit in his or her journey. Second type is one person who is extremely gifted, but he doesn't know it himself, or he is too hesitant to put something out. So the friends around him inspire him, just keep pushing him to make it happen. So so you should be.
Fair enough.
Yeah, this is the enabler of that person's journey.
Fair enough. I think that's a great note to end this on. Raunaq, thank you so much for doing this. This was a complete joy for me.
Thank you once again. Like I said, like we discussed already, I love what you're doing also. And I really like the video that you created, not just because it spoke about me, but because I like anyone who tries to find a new way to try to market his or her work, right? Like one way of doing this is talking about stuff you really like, talking about something funny, entertaining content. Another way is to take someone's career or someone's journey as a process and try to break it down what that person might have done. And when someone pays that much attention to you, attention to your work, and he gets a lot of things right and uses it to get him or her ahead in his or her journey, that's like even better. So yeah, so that's really amazing that you did. I hope you keep creating a lot more.
Thank you.
Make your friends also create a lot more. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
we need more people. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
keep creating.
Thank you. I will have that on my portfolio and all my portfolios going forward. Thank you, man. Thank you so much for doing this. It was a very good,
Thank
experience
you.
for me.
Thank you. It's
Thank you.
my pleasure. Yeah. See you, bro.
See you.